On a serious note,
Swatting.
the swatting thing has affected you, hasn't it?
It has. About a month and a half ago, my wife and I were swatted. I had heard about several people, on our side of the aisle politically on social media being swatted that morning. And, my wife and I we just moved into a house here. We bought a house in Tennessee, very excited about it. And we were ripping out an old chain link fence that was in the yard that we didn't want. And I was tired. I took a little 20-minute nap. She comes running into the room, wakes me up, says, there's cops in our yard with guns. I sat straight up and I said, all right, we're being swatted. And she didn't know what that meant. She thought it was going to be like a J6 situation where, they're going to rip us out of the house. I said, no, it's not going to be one of those, but they're going to be here and it's going to be tense and we just have to stay calm. They have guns drawn. We can't be jumpy. We don't want them to be jumpy. We're going to wait for instructions. And what wound up happening is I wound up getting a phone call. Rather than them coming and knocking on the door, I wound up getting a phone call. I just found out the reason because I got the 911 call from our sheriff. I was able to get that from them. The swatter had a really bad connection. So they were like, what's a number I can call you at? And the swatter gave my number. So they called me and they said, hey, we got a call that you shot your parents in the house. And that you were planning on committing suicide by cop. And I said, well, I am not doing that. My wife is here with me, and we are willing to demonstrate anything that we have to demonstrate to show you that that is not what's going on in this house. So we came out, and they had their guns pointed, and our hands were up. They patted us down. We had a seat on a neighbor's driveway. They cleared the house, and then we talked about it afterwards. But not a good experience for us. And by the way, not a good experience for this neighborhood. This is a quiet neighborhood that we live in Tennessee, just outside of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And we heard from several neighbors after the fact who are on our side politically, thankfully. I spoke to one of the kids. He's about 8 or 9 years old. And this is really what gets me upset, right? Obviously, guns pointed at me, guns pointed at my wife, guns pointed at our house. We have our pets in the house. They're still jumpy when a stranger comes into the house because of that. But outside of just this house, I spoke to this 8-9-year-old kid, and I said, what did you do when you saw that happening? And he said to me, and this really makes me angry, he was hiding under his desk in his room crying because he thought he might die. And that to me is something that, you're now picking on a 9-year-old. You've terrorized not just me, not just my wife, not just people in my house, but you've terrorized this entire neighborhood because they've never seen something like this happen before. And that is why I want these people caught and charged with domestic terrorism. And from what I understand, FBI is taking this extremely seriously and will be treating it as terrorism. But we got to catch them. And I think we will. I think they will be caught, but it's going to take some time.